let's talk about you and let's talk about your journey, because you have been an actor for how long?
Since 04. Well, in Hollywood since 04. I started acting in college in like 2000, 2001.
Okay. Yeah. So you got into acting, or did you always live, like, did you live in California at the time?
No, I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, which is
you were
like...
born in Rochester, right?
Yeah, I was born in upstate New York, Rochester. I grew up in Chicago and in Evanston. And then I went to school at University of Iowa and then moved out to Hollywood in 04.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was rewatching, because when I was preparing for this episode, I rewatched your PragerU video.
Oh, yeah.
When you said that Hollywood is like the most racist place.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, Hollywood. Honestly, what I've learned, and Hollywood and mostly liberal cities are some of the most racist places that I've ever been. And the only reason why I found out about that was I started doing this job for Crest Oral-B, where I travel around to conventions, and we work conventions and, you know, smiling and all that good stuff. And a lot of the people I worked with were from conservative states, small towns. So I started to see more direct contrast that wasn't on the screens, and it wasn't maybe one person I knew that moved away. I started seeing a huge comparison and a huge contrast, and I was like, wait a second. Oh my goodness. I mean, in Chicago alone, there were 2 different girls I dated not at the same time.
Thank goodness.
Yes, right. There was this one Italian girl was like, my grandmother told me to break up with you because it was in Chicago. Because what if your grandfather finds out? Like, it's maybe a bad thing. She was Italian. The Korean girl would never introduce me to her mom and dad because, well, she didn't know what they were going to do. And one girl in college even said her dad was like, don't ever bring home a black guy. So this is like a lot of things I was finding out in the so-called liberal, places that were supposed to be inclusive and all that good stuff. But when I sat there and then I get into Hollywood, and I had from agents and managers saying, you know, you should think about kind of thugging it up more. I'm like, what? Like, you see how I am. Yeah. And not saying...
Do they mean like in order to be marketable?
To get more roles earlier on. So the earlier
I would say, like, now they moved away from that.
Yeah,
so, like, almost like to the point where you notice
it's like, look, I can play a bad guy.
I mentioned the other day, I said, I use this example all the time, that in the 2018 Predator movie, Sterling K. Brown gets to play like an asshole, and you can tell that he's been waiting to play this role again for ages, because he's just not, he wasn't getting those roles, right? He played a detective for like 5 episodes of Person of Interest, and I loved him in that show where he's like suspected to be like a dirty cop, but he ends up not being. But then he went and did This Is Us, which is make everybody cry. Bathtub television, as they call it, to make you cry.
I like that.
And so, he gets to do this role where he gets to actually lean into being a bad guy. And every actor in the past would tell you that they love to play bad guys.
It's not necessarily bad guy to ask me to do. It was thug.
So
very specifically
type.
thug. Yes, very specifically a thug character. Then I'll never forget, there's two different instances. I go into a commercial audition. One was for Coors Light. It was, a bunch of black folks, because that's where Coors Light was trying to direct it to. And it was so sad because this is how it was written. But the casting director's like, we do something, and we did it the first time. He goes, and guys, and a white dude, and he kind of goes, so if you could hip hop it up a bit. And they're like sitting there going. And then the second one I went into,
everyone dies of cringe.
No, everyone was like, yo, and he's like, I know, that's what's written. That's how they wrote it for me to say it. Then the other side was, there was one where it was they needed Africans, right? And they picked me because my name, Siaka Massaquoi. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna show up. I show up, and now description didn't have anything about loincloths or anything like that. I show up, I'm seeing people dressed in like village outfits with like, and I'm just like, what? I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I was like, you just need an African. I'm an African. I go in, and it's this whole scene that they're setting up, and there's 2 guys next to me who are in like loincloths. I'm pretty much in a jeans and my shirt's off. And they're like, so can you kind of do, okay, what we want to do, think about how like in Swahili they do the clicks. Just make it up and do that. I was like, what the...
What year was this?
This was this was probably like 2010 or 20.
They were trying to get you to do like a tongue click.
Yeah, they were like, dude, all that. Yeah, and they had the other 2 guys were doing it, and I was just kind of like, ooh. And then I remember calling my agent. I go, don't ever send me out on shit like that again.
Okay, I didn't hear anything about this in your PragerU video.
Oh,
you didn't go into the details like that, but you also said like later on, there was sort of this push for you to identify as a victim, and a lot of people would make racist comments about white people around you.
Oh my goodness.
Kind of expecting you to laugh along.
Yes, yeah, all the time. I mean, it was one of those things that, and that one specific incident happened, it was during COVID. And I was on this Zoom because a bunch of actors and I got together, still do scenes together, keep our skills up. And this one guy, Or there's one girl, black girl, she was talking about something, working on set and with this white guy, and 2 other people were from the Middle East. One was Israeli, one was Iranian. So like, I mean, they're maybe tan at the best, but you could be like, hey, you're a white dude. And she's like talking. She goes, yeah, I don't really hang out with white people like that. I'm like, ugh. And she did that. And I'm just like, and I'm looking down because I'm like, I can't believe she just said this, because I was looking over my lines. Then I hear people start cackling like this is the funniest thing they ever heard. And I just sat back and I'm like, it was 2020. I voted for Trump in 2016, and I was hearing all the crap everyone was saying for, at this point, 4 years. And I hit a point where it was just so disgusting to me. I was done with them, because I've heard that before. White people's this, they're, white people that, ha ha ha, white people are corny. I'm just like, y'all need to stop, because as soon as they said black people XYZ, even if it's true, you lose your shit. And we sat there and watched them over and over. I'm listening to them. That was literally the last time that I actually hung out with them, because I'm like, I can't be a part of this stuff anymore. And we see, for me, I guess I saw where it was leading to, and now we see it. I had friends, roommates in the last 5 years that left LA because their agents told them, you're white, we can't cast you.
Wow.
You won't work here. I know you've been here for 12, 13 years of your adult life, but you're done. Sorry.
So Hollywood is just not capable of not being racist. Yeah. All they did was flip the script.
Yeah, that's it. That they're not capable of doing it, because what they do. I'll tell you how crazy it is. I was in an acting class at a casting office, very big one, and she was telling us how, well, now Hollywood's big push. This was like 7 years ago. Hollywood's big push 7 years ago was amputees. Mm-hmm. So you got to be a real amputee to get the work now.
Yeah.
Or they were looking for little people, and they need real like it was whatever the
not
thing.
Not anymore, because now we're not even going to get that.
Exactly.
Well, actually, no. Now we are going to get the Snow White
they're
movie.
switching.
They're switching back.
Around.
Yeah.
But the whole point was, it's like whatever the hot thing culturally they felt like we got to hit on. Like if it's somebody who's a special need, we got to get a real special need person. We got to get a real trans. Right now we see with trans, we got to get a real trans person.
Would you say that trans is like the hot thing now that they're trying to include?
Yeah. Which I had a friend of mine. He was tripping because. A mutual friend, it was on this show, the 4400 remake, that did another remake. Oh. Yeah, I know.
Oh, guys, yeah. I'm gonna decide. Whatever you do, do not watch the remake of the 4400. No. First of all, the original 4400 is a classic.
So good.
The remake, I saw one episode and I wanted to vomit and jump off a bridge.
Wow, is that bad?
It was bad.
Yeah, I didn't even touch it.
No, it's bad.
But they cast a chick as a dude, because sometimes I don't know their phrasing, so I'll just
a woman who identifies as a man.
So they cast that, and my other buddy called up. He's like, yeah, he's on the show, and his buddy, our mutual friend, like posted about it as being like a strong move. And I'm like, wait, so screw all the guys who've been hustling trying to get that part then, huh? Because it was cute. And our mutual friend's on the show, he's been busting his ass too. And I'm like, I know for a fact if some black chick who's pretending to be a woman goes on there as that, he wouldn't be happy about it. But because he's on the other side of the fence, and he can virtue signal and go, look, I'm a good guy, I'm an ally. They're playing the same game, but at the end of the day, it's all discrimination. It's all based in some type of racism, sexism, bigot. It's so sick out there, guys. It's sick, and I'm happy that this is growing, because I'm sick and tired of it.
Has the tone that Hollywood took as you watched it happen, right? Because it was a little bit different in 2004, and it got progressively worse and worse. Yeah. Has that hurt your passion for the actual profession of acting?
No, because I started. It's funny. I was known as a dramatic actor in 2020 and before, and since all this stuff happened, we started doing sketches with my group. What the Fact I was telling you about, and then Babylon Bee. So now I'm known as a comedic actor. But since it's like my passion and my love, I've seen how it can be put in now in a different sense, that I thought I had to wait to kind of do the dramatic stuff again. No, I can do the humorous part of it and still perform and still go out there and do that. So I think there's so much more in it that it really taught me I don't need Hollywood in order to hit this thing that I really love. And that's what I thought. I really thought I had to stay there in times when I should have left. I really thought the only way it was going to be success if I was working on a Hollywood, TV show or whatever. I'm starting to see that's not the case, So that it if anything, it helped me kind of get away.
That's what Eric July has been talking about. He said you need to stop looking to these industries for legitimacy.
Yep.
You need to stop pretending like they're the ones that are the arbiters of what's cool or what matters.
They're not.
Because if you can do it yourself, why would? First of all, you're going to own your own material.
Yep.
You're going to have way more control over what you do. Why look to people that hate you for approval on the stuff you're making? Right?
Well, and the other side is too. The person like Eric July, that's a great example to bring that up. He did this comic book Isom, and it went nuts in the first 2 weeks. It was crazy, I think almost $2 million.
All of his campaigns have cracked $1 million.
Yeah, I remember talking to Dallas Saunier of Daily Wire, and I told Dallas, you need to produce that into a movie now. That's the new comic book movies we can make, because that's good stuff. Look at what it's doing. But what you'll find out, like you're saying, you don't need Hollywood. I'll tell you a few reasons why. They don't know what they're doing like that. Yes, they have the expertise in the makeup artists and then the CGI and then knowing how to get numbers together and get in the pockets, but the creativity, they don't really know what they're doing. They're not really there in that sense because they've compromised too much for that. So when you're out there doing your own thing, don't use that as a comparison, because they live on fear. They're doing things out of fear. I know someone who's he's a producer. He did the showrunner, that's the guy who runs the shows for a television show. He showrunner of, I don't want to say the name because you look it up, but it was a major cultural television show. 2 shows, one was spun off the other. That was in the early 2000s. You'll do what you got to do with that. So much, and I remember watching it, and when I finally met him and we got close and became friends, when stuff started happening, he told me he was a conservative. I'm like, oh, why don't you speak up? He goes, I'll never work again. And I thought to myself, what was the point of getting up to here if you can't say what you want to say? Yeah. And you can't defend a friend of his that he couldn't touch because, he'd lose his career. But that's Hollywood. They're so afraid to try that they won't do anything, and they'll let people get their heads chopped off because when it comes to socially,
because they're always looking for the next paycheck, because they work by project. They're not hourly workers, they're not salary workers, so they're constantly in fear of not working.
Exactly. And if you're in constant fear, the people pulling the strings can decide how it moves. That's why we have terrible content right now on the Hollywood side.
So you're associating yourself with a whole different sphere now. You've shifted what kind of projects you're doing, but why are you still in LA?
Well, there's a few different reasons. In 22, well, first I met my wife there, and we started getting closer. I ran for office for state assembly in 22. I didn't win, as you can tell, but then afterwards, I actually what I learned from running for office is that whole city is not blue. It's not. Mm-hmm. It's more people are like-minded in what we want and we think than we understand. The problem is we don't get our message to them. And the other side, like the industries we wait to do the right thing, they're not going to share our message. When I was walking the streets, 95% of the people, my own neighborhood, said if you were a Democrat, I would have kicked you out in North Hollywood, California. Right? So then I became vice chair of LA County GOP. So mixture of that was look, there's something here that I feel like God has me here to do, which I believe is to be there for people as from a political standpoint, to show you can be dynamic, you can be an artist, you can be a conservative, you can love God, and it's okay. So I feel like that's part of the reason why I'm still in LA right now. I don't know where we'll be in the long run, but I know right now that's where I need to be. And there's just so much I've seen, even with what happened with, on November 30th, the love and support from the community that I stayed around. It's important. People need to see that there just as much as they have it here. So that's part of the reason why I kind of still hang out in LA for now.
Yeah, I've just been thinking about how a mass exodus from LA might be necessary to create an actual geographical pull.
It definitely does help. And I also think that it helps to shift the voting patterns of people there, because now there's no one else to use as an excuse.
Well, I just mean culturally as well.
If
there's the right polarity, competition will make Hollywood stronger. Competition will make this side of the aisle stronger as well.
It's like AEW.
Yes, yeah.
I gave me a little reference. That's a wrestling reference.
Okay.
Well, it's like WWF and WCW back in the 90s.
Yeah, Monday Night Wars.
Technology bolsters creativity and allows you to flourish, whereas once WCW went under, WWE arguably the product got really, really bad for a period of time.
Yes, and so that's, I think, to have, because part of me, again, is watching what Daily Wire is doing, Babylon Bee is doing, what you guys are doing here. Those are the building blocks, right? I think there's still so many of us in Hollywood that we can get to come out to these places and help build up even more. But they need to. There's a big thing. People need to see others do it before they can feel brave enough to even speak. Like, oh, I support it. They need to see it. I want to be there for that. I want to be like, it's okay, get out there. And we saw that in the Beverly Hills rallies. Beverly Hills in 2020 with Trump rallies, from June to election. By the time it was election, there were 10,000 people in Beverly Hills in the streets, live band, a plane flying over with a sign that says Vietnamese for Trump, Dennis Prager dancing with a bunch of Israelis. We're doing dance parties in the middle of the street of Santa Monica Boulevard. I sat there and go, this place isn't what they told us. Most of these people just don't know what to do. Most of us don't know what to do when it's like we want it different. We just think, oh, this is what it is. No, we can change it. Just by getting 50% of conservatives to vote in every election, we would change major cities like that.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.